And Robert Perry's on his way, and we don't know about Rowan. So welcome to everyone. I did that backwards, I'm sorry. We have the approval of the minutes, and so everyone had a chance to look those over. I did have a change on there. There's no mention of Joe on the minutes. You were not here to the last meeting. Did you call in to be excused, Joe?
I actually had a hearing run over and went into.
Okay, all right. So we just, Scarlett, you were going to make that change on there. Hello?
Yes, we'll make sure we get that change made.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the minutes. I was not present though.
Maybe we better have, you can make the motion, but I guess you can't vote because you weren't there. So we need a second.
Kathleen, I would second the motion.
Okay.
And then I was also going to let you know, we just spoke with Rowan. He's going to head down to the offices now. So if maybe Jesse looks for him, he should be there in the next few minutes, I would imagine.
Okay.
He was having technical problems.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion from Joe Chambers, a second by Michael. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to.
Oh, you weren't there. Laura wasn't there either.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. We now come to the public comment part of the meeting. So we'll open public comments. Anyone wishing to express their views on issues within the commission's jurisdiction may email or comments or text. By law, email comments are considered public record and will be shared with all parties involved, including the Planning Commission and the applicant. So, Scarlett, do we have any public comment?
I have none on my end. So while she's checking probably the email address, I have none on my end.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay.
Visionary Homes? Okay.
I don't have anything.
Thank you. Okay, we will close the public comment. And since there are no public hearings tonight and no legislative action items, we'll move to our first administrative action item. And that is the Planning Commission will consider for approval the preliminary plat for Sage Crest Subdivision, a 15-lot residential subdivision located in the general area of 150 North Sherwood Drive. We've talked about this a number of times, and that's the one that is going from the single family large to single family medium. So any comments from anyone?
Kathleen,
Yes.
I did check the emails and I have not received any comments from public on any, not a public comment or any of our action items.
Great,
And we do
thank
have
you.
Danny McFarland is on our Zoom meeting with us, and he's the applicant on this. Before he does though, I'll just kind of quickly go over, Danny can talk about, Danny, you got the summary of, or you got the staff report, right?
Yes.
Do you have a copy that you can look at, or?
Yeah, let me pull it up here.
If you want to talk, because the summary of key issues and some of your answers are included in that. So if you want to talk about that part, I will just talk about the findings of fact. We use Providence City Code Title 10, or excuse me, Utah Code Title 10, Chapter 9A subdivisions. We also look at the general plan to look at current development and anticipated development in the area. We look at Providence City Code 8121 for water availability requirements. And then in the staff report, we actually listed as a checklist on preliminary plat, we actually listed the items required out of Providence City Code 1132. And I'm not going to go through all of those items, but the developer did meet all of those requirements. So our conclusions, Providence City has enacted ordinances requiring that a subdivision plat comply with the provisions of the municipality's ordinances and the provisions of Utah Code Title 10, Chapter 9A, 6 and 6. The development is consistent with the general plan map for zoning. The plat as drawn is a standard subdivision using the standard street cross sections. The general plan map for parks, open space, and urban trails calls for the power line and deer fence areas as future park, open space, and wildlife area as drawn. This development does not provide for additional recreation facilities. Then there's a couple of things that we've got in here that Danny provided for us. They will have an agreement with the current owner of the property, which is Stan Checketts, and they will create an LLC that Stan will be partners with 500 North LLC. And then at that point, since they'll have the agreement with Stan, the easement for the temporary turnaround, Stan will sign that as part of the final plat when it comes to that. A preliminary plat is not considered approved until all conditions have been satisfied and the plat has been signed by the city engineer, the land use authority, and the developer. And that's something, Danny, that we haven't kept up on like we need to. And so would you, if everything gets approved, will you get us a copy and put a signature block on for the city engineer, the planning commission, and then you to sign on a preliminary plat?
Oh, okay, for sure.
And then we
Yeah.
will have that. And then our conditions, Danny will have to submit the information showing the water dedication requirement. And we've got the detail that goes along with that. Danny provided information that the water fire flow analysis and the water calculations will be submitted with the final plat submittal. The next one goes along with that same thing. Proposed water infrastructure needs to be designed to provide sufficient fire flows to each lot. And then Sherwood Drive must be designed to provide for functioning underground utilities, including but not limited to water, sewer, stormwater as it extends north beyond the development. The applicant shall continue to meet all applicable city, state, and federal laws, codes, and rules. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. And before Danny follows up on some of that, I just want to let you know that Brian Marble did walk in my office, so he is in attendance in the meeting, and I will let him look at my screen when he needs to chat. How's that?
He must not have looked at his emails today.
Oh, actually, he's pulling it up on his own laptop, so we'll see if he comes
Okay.
on or not. Yeah. That's it for my report.
Thanks, Scarlett. So Danny, did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, just really, Scarlett did a really good job at talking about the conditions. As far as, there's been some discussion up in this area about water pressure and fire flow. This elevation of Sherwood Drive in this area is similar to the fire hydrant 496, which has a static pressure of 129 PSI And when the fire flow, when it's turned on and the flow test is done, it still has a dynamic pressure of 52 PSI, which is 20 is the minimum. So it has adequate pressure. There's a flow of 1,200 gallons per minute. And it's in a good realm as far as fire flow and pressure. So that's not something we're worried about on that. As far as, the other, Scarlett kind of talked to the fact that Stan is partnering with 500 North LLC and he'll be a partner on this project. But 500 North, which is myself and Brent Skinner, will kind of run the project. He won't necessarily be involved in the entitlements or the sales. There was some discussion between staff about the lots. All lots will be essentially graded flat. The east side lots on the road will be flat. And then on the west side, that'll be flat for the first 20 feet into the lot. Then it'll step down for a walkout basement. So they will all be pad ready flat lots, which seems to be what everybody wants. So that's kind of, and then the other thing is there was some discussion about future phases. There's really no future phases. I mean, we showed a conceptual road layout, but there's no imminent phase that's planned at this point beyond this one.
So this is the end of your development for now.
For now. Yep.
Okay.
And it's a good breaking point because at this point, at the end of this phase at the north, that's where, everything starts to, all the sewer storm drain would flow to the north versus everything this way flows in this phase flows to the south.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Kathleen, I went out and looked at it again just a little while ago and reviewed all the notes and everything. Everything looked good, and I appreciate the input from Scarlett and Danny. And so I would make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Sage Creek subdivision, a 15-lot residential subdivision located in the general area of 150 North Sherwood Drive, and recognize the findings of fact as contained in the report from the staff.
I can get you, if I can get you to add the other two, the finding of fact and the
Conditions, I didn't know.
the conditions and the, what's the other section? The conclusions of law and the conditions. So if you'll add that to your motion.
Okay. Let me write those down. Scarlett's taken over my machine somehow. So I
Really?
can't the thing up and down. But so let me go. I make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Sage Creek subdivision, a 15-lot residential subdivision located in the general area of 150 North Sherwood Drive, with the conditions, recognizing the findings of fact, the conditions of law, in is that it? The conditions of law and
It's actually the conclusions.
the conclusions of law and the conditions as stated in the staff reports.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Bob Perry, Michael Fortune made the motion and Bob Perry made the second. Is there any condition, any discussion?
None from me.
Point of order for me, if you don't mind. Now that you have a full quorum and I'm the sixth person, I don't think I'm voting.
Yes, we do have a full quorum. So you're our alternate, okay? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, is anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Danny.
Okay,
Uh,
next.
Another point of order, if I could. It's 2 o'clock here, and if I could be excused, it should have a full voting, and since I'm just gonna be watching, may I be excused?
Yes.
But,
It's 2 a.m. there. Is it 2 a.m.?
yeah,
Oh, go to bed. Thank you for making the effort to come.
no, I committed to do it. I just, since they have a full thing, I wanna go out and see a site. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Guess if you're in Hawaii, you better take advantage. Brian Marble has joined us now on video. Welcome, Brian. Okay, item number 2, condominium plat. The Planning Commission will consider for approval a preliminary plat for South Cache Commercial Building 5. It's a 2-unit commercial condominium located at 560 West, 465 North. Okay. So do we have anybody here to talk about that?
Kathleen, Rod Blossom is the one that is having technical difficulties. If you have questions for him, I can certainly call him on the phone.
We need to ask him if he's received the packet from the city.
Let me hurry and give him a call really quick.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I think so. They can sort of see the top of your head.
We can see you, Bob.
Okay. Let me find South Cache. Okay.
So it's really short because this is another one we've talked about. So we can-
It's up the street from city offices, right?
So Kathleen, he's not answering right now. Do you want to do item number 3? And then I'll try him again in a few minutes and see if we can get him on the line.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's move to item number 3. It's a final plat. Planning Commission will consider for approval final plats for Providence Gateway Condominium phases H and I, J and K, and L and M. It's a phased multifamily development located in the general area of 460 West, 40 South, and 460 West, 60 South. So do we have anyone that wants to talk about that?
We do have someone from Visionary Homes on with us. Do you want to introduce? You must be John.
Yeah,
correct?
I'm John Harrop.
Are you the silent partner that was there last time?
I was silent then, now I'm supposed to speak. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Welcome.
thank you.
So have you received the city documents detailing all the stuff on your final plat?
I don't have anything from the city, no, I didn't receive it.
You didn't get the agenda packet?
Yeah, okay, that stuff. Yeah, I got that. I have that in front of me, sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what she's asking about.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I wasn't specific enough. I wasn't sure how you would have received it.
So I will just quickly go through and review our analysis. And then, John, you can make any comments that you would like to after that. These are the final phases of a multifamily development located in the area of 410 West, 100 South. And they've actually submitted 3 individual plats. Each building is considered a phase for the way that works best for the developers' bookkeeping methods. But we're looking at them. There will be 3 plats. 1 plat is for phase H and I. 1 plat is for phase J and K, and then 1 plat is for phase L and M, which sounds like a lot, but actually it's just 6 buildings, 6 10-unit condominium buildings. And they are, as Chairman Alder said, they are located in the general area of 460 West, 40 South, and 60 South. Just point of reference, 40 South and 60 South are considered private roads within the development, or private accesses, excuse me. This is, since it is part of a multifamily development, the preliminary plat and site plan were approved on January 23rd, 2019. This review combines the 3 applications that we just reviewed for the 3 final plats. The applications were received on October 5th, 2020. However, some of the information, we needed to get a little bit more information, so the complete application was received on 10/16/2020. Each unit contains 1 tenant unit condominium. Public infrastructure was installed with prior phases. The development agreement, security of performance and warranty will not be required with these phases because of the public infrastructure has already been taken care of. Again, in our findings of fact, we look at Utah Code Title 10, Chapter 9A, Part 6 subdivisions. We also look at the Providence City General Plan 2020. We look at Providence City Code 1089, which is design standards for attached and multifamily residential development. And we look at Providence City Code 1133, which lists the requirements for a final plat. It's our conclusions, and Rowan Cecil has just walked in the office, so we have Rowan here with us now. It's our conclusions that we've enacted the ordinances for subdivision regulations. The plats as shown are in harmony with the general plan 2020 key initiatives. The applicant submitted drawings for the site plan, architectural plan, landscaping plan, and parking plan. The applicant meets the requirements for a final plat with the following conditions. The final plat must be stamped and signed by the surveyor. All signature blocks will need to be signed. The existing covenants, conditions, and restrictions, commonly referred to as CC&Rs, either include or will need to be amended to include the phases H through M. The grading, and then they will also have to be reviewed by our attorney. The grading plans will need to be reviewed and approved by the Public Works Director and the city engineer. The fee in lieu for water dedication needs to take place prior to the recorded final plat. The applicant shall continue to meet all applicable city, state, and federal laws, codes, and rules. And approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. So you should see in your packet, as I said earlier, you'll see an application and 3 applications and 3 final plats, but you will only see 1 set of building elevations, 1 set of color schemes, 1 set for the layout and the landscaping plan, the parking, since they're all in the same, all on the same map. I did not, like I said, I didn't print 3 copies of everything. I just printed 1 copy of those. So that explains your packet. And if you have any questions, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, or John can explain a little bit more what their plans are.
So John, do you have anything you want to explain to us? You feel like you need to let us know?
Nothing comes to mind. I think Scarlett covered things pretty well. Thank you, Scarlett. We have the water calcs, which I don't think you guys have. We'd be happy to submit those if you'd like. Otherwise, I think things are pretty straightforward. We're wrapping up the first phases of that project, and it's starting to look really sharp. So it'll be nice when these are finished and the landscaping is in. It'll look more open.
Get rid of all the construction
Looking forward to
vehicles.
seeing, yeah, construction debris, construction equipment. It's always nice to get that out of there, streets swept, people walking around. It's gonna look nice. I don't have any other comments.
And the weeds down. Okay,
There's a plat going into the north, and that one will have an extended green area that will be accessible to the whole Gateway community.
yes, we talked about that last time.
Yeah, I think it's about 3/4 of an acre of green field there in the middle.
That will be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so unless there's anything further, I'll entertain a motion on this item number 3.
Want to make the motion, Roland?
I can motion to approve the final plat of Providence Gateway condominiums phases H and I, J and K, L and M.
I second the motion.
Laura, do you want to be a little more specific and reference the 3 areas?
Sure. Phased multifamily development located in the general area of 460 West, 40 South, and 460 West, 60 South.
And then reference the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the conditions, if you would, in your motion.
Sure. And referencing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and findings of motion as shared by Scarlett,
And conditions.
and conditions of law. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion by Laura Banda. Do we have a second?
I second the motion. This is Rowan.
Oh, Rowan. Okay, I was gonna say, I didn't see anybody else speaking.
Aha.
Okay, so we have a second by Rowan Cecil. Any further discussion by anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? I think I saw everybody vote. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Glad you weren't the silent partner tonight.
I'm warming up.
Okay, so we'll move back to the item number 2. What do you think, Scarlett?
I'm actually trying to get a hold of him
Okay.
right now.
If he does not come, will we still do this item?
You can, yes.
That's the Providence Gateway thing.
It is, it's the South Cache Commercial Building.
Okay.
Sorry, Kathleen, he is not responding, but I do know, like I said, when he called earlier, he was having trouble with his phone and his laptop.
Not a
trying to make
technical
it-
night tonight.
It must be, I don't know what's in the air tonight, but
So do you want to just go ahead and go through it for us?
sure.
Move that.
This is a condominium plat for an office building. We've already done the subdivision on this, and we've actually gone through the site plan approval for this. But then rather than leasing out each space. They've decided that they're going to, they want to be able to sell the spaces independently. So you can see on there, there's one that's kind of an L shape and then the other is a rectangle. One second. That's not the right one. Sorry. This is a multi-phase project of the South Cache Commercial Subdivision located at 530 West, 465 North. It's also known as Cobblestone Commercial Center. It is not affiliated with Cobblestone, Cobblestone residential development that's on the east side of Gateway Drive. This is on the west side of Gateway Drive, but they do both share the Cobblestone name. This application
Scarlett,
was
you
received-
said 530 West, it's 560 West in our paperwork.
I'm sorry, I just looked at that wrong. You're correct. That's what it
Okay.
is.
This one is straightening out.
Yes. The application was received on September 10th, 2020. Utah Code and Providence City Code and the Providence General Plan were used for this review. Utah Code Title 57, Chapter 8 talks about condominium ownership and lists the rules and regulations. Providence City Code Title 11, Chapter 6 lists rules and regulations for condominium approval. Providence City Code 1163 requires a fire marshal review. It also requires the city attorney review the declaration of condominium. And if the planning commission finds that the project is in compliance with the applicable ordinances and the requirements of the final plat, the planning commission shall grant the approval. The conclusions are that the application meets the requirements listed in the findings of fact with the following conditions. The fire marshal review will be completed as part of the building permit process. The fire marshal has been involved in this review already, but his actual review is being done as part of the building permit instead of having an independent statement for us. The city attorney's approval, he will have to review the declaration of condominium, and then he will get that back to me. The applicant will continue to meet all applicable state, city, federal laws, codes, and rules. And approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. So that's all I have on this particular one. We've actually done this 2 other times in this same development. They start out with the building shell, not really knowing what type of business will either want to purchase or lease. And so once they get that decision made after the shell is built, they've either kept it in one unit and done their leasing thing, or they've come back to us in condominium. And so this is, like I said, I think this is the 3rd one they've done over in that area.
Okay, thank you. I think we can go ahead and act on it. This is pretty cut and dried. Looks like all the Ts have been crossed and the Is have been dotted. It meets our general plan. So I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the final plat for the South Cache Commercial condominiums located at 550 West,
560,
560 West,
465.
and 465 North Providence, including the findings of fact, the conclusions of law, and the conditions.
Okay, we have a motion by Robert Perry.
I'll second the motion.
Who's that? Michael?
Michael?
Michael Fortune, and second the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael, did you vote?
I did.
Okay. You didn't light up, so. Okay, There any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. Appreciate everyone participating. We'll get this down yet, won't we? Get all the stuff in there that we're supposed to. I sent what we need in these land use motions to you in the email. And so if you want to review that again. So we have one study item, and I ask that this be added. And that is, I would like to see us go through the city code, not reading all of the city code and coming up with some stuff, but looking at things that, oh, there's Michael.
Yeah, I knew I was here somewhere.
And as issues come up that are brought up by other people as they have issues with city codes, and it makes sense for us to review them, I would like to do that so that we're not telling people what they can't do. We're saying that they can't do it that way, but here are other ways that they could do it. And let's make some positive changes to our codes so that we get people through the process quickly. These days, if we hold people up when they're when they're trying to get approvals, and we make them keep coming back for things because our code is not reflective of what their needs are, let's make some changes because it costs a ton of money. I mean, lumber prices and building material prices are going up faster than we can even keep track of them. And so I would like us to have a process in place where we're reviewing the codes and making changes to them. So I'll open that up for discussion. What do you think?
Well, where do you want to, exactly where do you want to start? What area?
Well, I think we could ask the city staff if they have come across some things that need to be reviewed and looked at. It's pretty hard to read the code and say, I think this is going to be a problem. I think we need to wait for people to run into a problem. And I'm sure they have, right, Scarlett?
We do have people that sometimes run into a problem. I know that there are some things that Ryan found that are kind of leftover or ripple effect, that as codes have changed over the years. We do have some antiquated statements in the code and in the zoning regulations, and so we need to look at some of that. Some of the titles aren't referenced probably as clearly as they could be. One thing that I think is, we've talked about this before, but if you really are going to start looking at Title 10, I think it's important to understand how a conditional use works. And I think rather than doing a lot of conditional use, it would be better to just codify some of the standards that you feel like need to come into play. And so I think looking at our use chart, which is in Title 10, Chapter 6, and looking at the C's and the P's, it's important to remember that a C is already a use that Providence City has decided they want to live with. It's just, are there mitigating circumstances that need to be dealt with? And honestly, when you really sit down and look at it, there are very few circumstances that couldn't be put into the code. One of the areas that you might want to look at, since a lot of those uses have to do with home businesses and commercial businesses, you probably want to look at Providence City Code Title 3, which has our business licensing in it, chapters 4, and look at also in our definitions in Title 10, in our definitions, look at how we've got home businesses listed. Look at how we define business office, low impact, business office, medium impact, business office, high impact. Look at some of those ways we've done a few things and see if you feel like we could treat other things in a similar way so that we could reduce the amount of we could reduce having conditional uses. Because once if Kathleen came in and she wanted to do a hair salon out of her house, right now a hair salon requires a conditional use. So Kathleen comes in, she goes through the process, and she receives a conditional use. If Kathleen sells the property, as long as the next buyer doesn't let that use go vacant for more than a year, the next buyer can pick right up and have a salon in that home as well. A conditional use runs with the property. So once you give a conditional use, in a way, you've given somebody more long-term permissions than just giving them a regular business license or having a permitted use. So I just think it would, Ryan and I have talked a little bit about this, and Ryan, you can certainly correct me if I've misstated anything, but I do think that's one area that we really want to start looking at. What do we really want to achieve when we allow cottage industry, which we've got some really successful cottage industries. So I'm not saying that we should diminish that, but how can we do it with the code so that we're not dealing with a lot of conditional uses? If the building code or the fire code is already going to monitor some of these things, treating them as a conditional use is kind of, for lack of a better term, it's kind of overkill. It's kind of an extra step that maybe isn't needed. I'm not saying every single thing needs to be taken out. There are a few things that probably do still need to remain conditional use, but it's something that I think you ought to look at. Ryan, what do you think?
I totally agree. Can you hear me?
Kind of echoey.
Brian will have to mute his.
Got it.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So at this point, it's going to be, both of us together is going to be tough. Let me mute myself.
It's okay now. We can hear you and it's coming across.
Yeah, it echoes in here. So what I would say is that Scarlett's just right. We need to make sure that we've codified any of the conditions. If we have that, we can reduce a lot of the burden on those that are coming to apply. Anytime you can simplify the process, that's great, as long as you've maintained the infrastructure. So tonight, I look and say, the things we have, the things we cover, could those conditions have been codified into ordinance? And so then you didn't talk about conditions because they were part of the law. At this point, we set conditions on certain things tonight even. And how many of those conditions are unique to that particular piece of property? So that's one. I think the other thing is you never open up a.
You're echoing again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can't hear him either.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you still hear me before? Because I couldn't hear you.
it's echoing.
Okay. So let's go.
Close your computer, Brian.
Okay. He's muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. So at this point, we want to do what we can to help the process go smoothly.
Yes, that's my intent.
Yes, I would say, but we don't want to get into open the entire code, and my worry when you put just Title 10 as a generic on there is that we don't want to have opening up every chapter of the entire title. If we want to make a change, let's be more surgical about it than generic. So if you want to go through a chapter and you want as a planning commission to go one chapter at a time, so we look at general provisions, we digest that as a group. I would recommend breaking it apart into simple pieces that you can act on. Because if you take the total Title 10, by the time you got to the end of it, you'd have different planning commission members, and
Yeah.
you might have other things that change. I would take as simple of changes as you can. Eat those one bite at a time. Eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Right. That's
And-
why I said, what I would like to do is just ask for an issue that has come up that we need to deal with and make those changes. Because I'm not going to read the code and say, I think this is a problem or that's a problem.
And that's fine to do it either way, to bring up a problem. But if we don't go back to the code, we don't know the actual
Right.
problem. But
Right.
like, for instance, I don't know, in the code, as I read through it, in preparing, I did skim and review the entire title in preparation for the meeting tonight. Because that's what was on the agenda. It was that broad, and it takes a lot of time to research that when you put it on that broad.
Yeah. I agree.
So at that
Starting
point,
small, having a
lot
few
of research being
successes.
added for one little agenda item. But you want to say, you know what, do you realize that for every building permit, the code actually currently says, whether it's updated like Scarlett said, but it currently says that the planning commission chair has to sign every building permit? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous crazy. And I think it's probably been changed, but if we went back to that would hold up every permit, and we'd have Kathleen here all the time. And we don't even get the building permits because they're the county, so she'd have to camp at the county constantly.
Yes, let's change that, should we?
Yes. So there are some of those
So
kind
there
of.
are little housekeeping things even that need to be straightened out and cleaned up. Let's do
Yes.
that.
I would recommend, Kathleen, to counter you a little bit, I would recommend that every member of the planning commission should read the code.
Okay.
And that's why I would take it chapter by chapter. This chapter, this Title 10, you should at least know what's in it. You don't have to memorize it, but at least know what is in it.
Yes. I agree.
This is Rowan to Kathleen. I suggest that we look at problems as they come, but also that we start and take this piecemeal all the way through.
Okay.
Agreed. I agree with that, Ron.
Scarlett, would you send everybody the link to that?
Yes,
Should
I
be
can.
able to be found easily on our website, and that's where
Okay.
we would reference you to.
Okay.
You should know how to find it on our website if you need this direction to do that, because then we want to help
back to
you
it
so you
anytime.
can find and research it. If we can do that, that would be more helpful than sending the link anytime.
Okay, so where is it?
If you go to the website, providencecity.com, and if you go under councils and commissions, there is one that says city code and ordinances, and you just click on city code, online city code.
Okay.
It will take it, and if you know that your realm is generally Title 10, you can see that on the left.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah. Kathleen, may I suggest one other thing?
yes.
And Ryan, in just a minute, maybe you could tell them how to get to the general plan on our website. I think it would behoove the planning commission, actually, before you probably dive into the zoning code, I think maybe looking at the general plan, at least the vision, the key initiatives, our moderate income housing plan, things like that. And then as you look at the zoning code, I think you need to think, okay, how can we achieve our goals for moderate income housing? are the things that we have in our zoning code, do they support what we've said for moderate income housing in the general plan or not? And if they support them, great. Then we just look at maybe clerical errors or a few little technical things. But if you don't feel like we're supporting our general plan with our code, then that would be a broader discussion we would need to have about making sure that it does that. So I think making yourselves familiar with the general plan. I know there's a lot of objectives in there that we've got that are more like to do excuse me, to do lists for the staff in a way. But so I wouldn't spend a ton of time on that, but I do think looking at the philosophy and the vision and the key initiatives and seeing how seeing if our zoning code supports those things in our general plan. I think if you kind of use that as a filter in trying to get the general plan and the zoning code to be in harmony, I think that would be very helpful, so that as you go forward, both in understanding the general plan and understanding how the zoning ordinances play a part in achieving that general plan.
Absolutely agree with that, Scarlett. So let me show you. I've shared my screen. If you look at, there's a transparency tab on the end of it, and there's master plans. If you click on that, all of our plans that we have are entitled onto this page. So if you go to the general plan, you can come here and see the general plan. And and as she said, you know, I would look at it. It will talk about the framework, talk about the history, talk about the different chapters. But one of the things she talked about was, get through the history here a little bit, some demographics. And so we have a vision statement, and then we have 6 key initiatives. And you should be familiar with those 6 key initiatives. And then it will give you more detail under a chapter for each of those initiatives to go farther into it. But those 6 initiatives should be something you're familiar with when you're making a decision. You'll notice on the staff report, we always talk about that it's in line with the general plan. It lists these initiatives in there. And so we are referencing that general plan. Each of those other master plans, coming back here. So we'll have the trails, the park trails and recreation plan. Many of you were invited to participate in some fashion. The transportation plan, I sent that to Kathleen. Hopefully she'll be able to send that out to the group.
I did already. They should have
okay.
it.
So at that point, you'll have a fairly good input into any of these as we move forward.
Ryan, can
And-
I just stop you right
Yep.
there and just let this group know that at our next planning and zoning meeting, we will have a presentation by the group that's helping us put together the master plan for trails, parks, trails, and recreation. So we'll have a presentation. It's not out to everyone, but we'd like you to review it and know what's in it and give us feedback.
I think we're planning for both the transportation and the park and rec to be presented there, right?
That's correct, Ryan. We've got both of them scheduled to be on that agenda.
Okay.
So
Can we chat just for a minute about that agenda and let everyone know that since Wednesday, November 11th would be your normal meeting day, but that is Veterans Day. And so to accommodate everybody's schedules, we'd like to move that to your meeting to Tuesday, November the 10th. So if you could plan for Tuesday, November the 10th, and then if I have any public hearings or anything, I can get those noticed up. We can let the consultants know that that will work for both these plan presentations. So is there anyone that would have conflict with moving that to the 10th?
No, I don't think, not me.
That's
Okay.
good. Okay, if you'll mark your calendars for that the 10th, that would be great, because that'll be an important meeting for all of you to be to.
And you should have drafts of both of those plans in advance so that you can at least have some opportunity to read them. I don't know that reading it every word, but being familiar with it and knowing if there is anything as you look through, if there's any obvious things that you want to talk about or look farther into, feel free to do that, and if there's any concerns, we'll address those.
So that plan, we need to send them a link for that plan, or send the plan to them so that they can review that as well.
For the MHTN, the Park Trails and Recreation.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you have a link in your one, but we can send that out. Yes. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So any questions on how to get to the master plan and how to get to the city code?
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Okay. With that, mark your calendars for the 10th so that we'll have everybody there. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we close this meeting.
Good thing, Rowan.
I figured that would come from Rowan.
We need a second.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion by Rowan Cecil and a second by Robert Perry. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you very much, all of you. We did this kind of at the last minute, but I think for a little while, we probably better do it this way, just because COVID is up so much in Cache Valley. Let's be a good example to everyone.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.